Mr. Runar Bjarnason, Master of Ceremonies.
Thank you. So yeah, my name is Runar, and I have the distinct honor to introduce the first ever Eyjafjallajökull lecture. Mostly because, thank you. Mostly because I am only one. I think I'm only one of two people in this room who can actually pronounce the word Eyjafjallajökull. Correct? Eyjafjallajökull. So it's not difficult. I mean, so anyone here from Britain? Yeah. Okay, so there's a place in Britain called Llanfairpwll Gwyngyll go Gerich Chwyrn Drobwll Llantysilio go Goch. And so I think we should all be very, very pleased that there aren't any volcanoes in Wales, right? Anymore, right? So Eyjafjallajökull, for those who don't know, is a volcano. It's a glacier in Iceland under which there is a volcano. And in 2010, during Scala days, this giant decided to erupt and covered most of Europe, except for Iceland, in ash. And so all flights in and out of Europe and within Europe even had to be canceled. And so Scala Days 2010 was going on at the time in Lausanne, and a lot of people I think were stuck. A lot of people in this room actually were stuck in Lausanne, and I believe a lot of important Scala code, or at least I'm told, but I don't believe it for a second, that a lot of important Scala code was actually written while people were stuck. And I've heard stories of people, hitchhiking across the French countryside, because obviously the French, train system was on strike at the time, as they do. But it is my distinct honor to introduce our speaker for this evening, who has contributed, I think, more code to the Scala compiler than anyone else. Probably written more Scala code than anyone that I know. And has actually deleted more Scala code from the Scala compiler than he's added. And also, if you've ever seen the Scala compiler come back at you with sort of like a snarky comment, or you've slain the compiler, or something like that, or if you've seen a snarky comment in the Scala compiler code, that's probably his. So I'm going to introduce our speaker for this evening, Paul Phillips.
Thanks for that stirring introduction, Runar. I feel like I've been upstaged by a glacier. I would also like to thank John Pretty for inviting me to speak here today. I would like to thank him, but I can't. Because while you may all think that you're here for some kind of Scala conference, I know the true origins of this entire event, as you now will also know momentarily. LambdaConf, year and a half ago, I had this slide. Everybody laughed. You could see the seeds of an idea in John's mind. Something had to happen. I knew the other shoe was going to drop. Well played. There was no more flattering picture than this. So I didn't know what to talk about, so I went through the usual list of boring stuff you would expect me to talk about, like, what have I been doing in 18 months since my last commit? Well, it turned out that one fit on a slide. That's the alpaca farm to which I hope to retire and not worry about software. Other possibilities include the set me up for this type-safe renaming contest. That would have filled, if not an hour, several hours, probably days. Reactive anaconda was mentioned last evening, which I sort of like. I think some combination of reactive and a snake that squeezes and entangles you would be good. A lot of possibilities here, but I guess TypeSafe is probably a sponsor, so I'll stop there. What Scala could learn from Rust and Go? Now, you might be surprised to hear that there's anything that Scala could learn from Go, but in fact, such things exist, I can say, as somebody who programmed in Go full-time for a couple months. Yes, it was quite an experience, and you'd really enjoy hearing about it, but I'm not going to tell you. And then there's the third thing, which is the thing I should be here pushing upon you, is like my actual thing, which I'm in principle working on, and that's what I was writing in Go. Suffuse, but I'm not going to talk about that either because I'm tired of talking about it, and because of the fourth bullet point, the most important, you guys have been drinking, and I never get like an explicitly drinking audience. I mean, I know at a convention half the people have flasks, but here it's like, hey, this is great. I can actually say stuff, and maybe they'll think it's funny. So I was not going to waste this opportunity. You and your research, one of my favorite papers. Basically, he goes around saying, like, are you working on the most important problem in your field? Well, why not? And, causes all these people to have existential crises over like, oh, my God, you're right. It sounds awful, actually, but he makes a good point. I'm going to take that and combine it with the next one. As we've all seen many, many times at this point, there are only two hard things in computer science. So the conclusion of combining these is quite obvious. Naming things. So I knew what I would talk about. Naming things and Cothings, because that's the thing, what I've been spending all my time on is Cothings. So having been reading all this ridiculous category theory stuff, I had no choice but to talk about the only thing running around in my brain, things and Cothings. But you're thinking, oh God, category theory, somebody bolt the doors, because it's not going to be what you think, I assure you. For one thing, I'm not smart enough. I'll just leave that there for a moment, just in case anybody's going to notice what's going on there, and then I'll go to the next slide. Aristotle's law of identity. It's a classic. It's funny how fraught with like uncertainty that little simple statement is, actually. A is A. But my first bit of original research. The categorical corollary. A is cocoa. I believe there are one or possibly two more lemmas in there, but I need to come back to it. Other questions of interest include whether a cocoon is on, coconut is just a nut, and best of all, whether co-counseled is really the same as bought. That's as hard as you'll have to work. Naming things, my contribution to the field. So there's all these itties. I guess I'm going to read them so that you can enjoy it. There's a lot of itties, but this is a very abbreviated list. Stuff we use. Oh, and I'd like to credit Eugene for making me realize that one can use boxity to describe white box versus black box macros. That is actually the inspiration for this entire couple of slides, because it was like, whoa, my eyes are open. Like, there are forms of polymorphism that I never, ever, ever would have thought of. So here's a bunch of stuff like that we evaluate code based on these things, and these are all like important to various people. Arity, boxity, fixity, totality, purity, those are all kind of objective. Complexity, generality, modularity, portability, those are a little less objective. Productivity, security, simplicity, stability, finality, mutability, opacity, polarity, doesn't get enough press, very interesting one. Atomicity, locality, mobility, volatility. It sounds like the beginning of a bad Gilbert and Sullivan song, actually. I realize as I say it. But look at all the good stuff that is totally unused. And so for the folks at home that don't have a video feed, I'm going to read these as well, since they're just full of good stuff. Atrocity, calamity, obscenity, and I ordered these to make a bit of a story if you really work at it. It's not perfect, but I think you will find. Depravity, criminality, complicity, many things I've wished to abstract over. Profanity, perplexity, debility. Inanity, hilarity, indignity, temerity, and now this is where the hero's arc turns bad, right? It's at first he laughed and now he can't believe it. Duplicity, culpability, impunity, futility, hostility, enmity. I don't think you can abstract over enmity, but it's it's a strong close. Anyway, I say in all seriousness that, and there's other stuff I could have put up here with a different sort of person, like tranquility and serenity and whatnot, right? But I think these are actually far more useful in software, right? There may be some other field where tranquility comes up, but this is not the one. All right, so here's a few more. Liberty, equality, fraternity, intercity, intracity, supercity, validity, probability, advisability. So if any part of you allowed me to read that and thought, what's intercity? Excuse me?
It's kind of train. Intercity.
Yes, exactly. In fact, that word is intercity, but it's actually quite hard to read that when you've read 30 of these in a row and see it as intercity. It looks like intercity, intracity, and supercity, when in fact it's intercity, intracity, and supercity. Again, functional fixedness, look it up, it's a thing. So if there's any lesson to be had in this talk, and it's unlikely, it's probably in here somewhere. So here are a bunch of words that I've invented. Some of you have seen some of these on Twitter, but since I'm sure you don't all religiously follow me, it's new to most of you. And there are new ones in here. All of this was born of my realization that specifiction was a thing. So I typoed that one day. I'm like, oh my God, specifiction, this is the greatest thing in the world. And so I was not the first person to discover that. It turns out it was a thing. But I might be the first person to systematically go through every ication word that there is and find ones that look like they make good iction words by subtracting the A. So here are some of them. Clarifiction. It's just a monoid in the category of endofunctors. What's the problem? Codifiction. Follow consensus as long as you were doing that anyway. Edifiction, mansplaining. I don't know if I need to. Some of these one-word ones, either you're going to get or you won't. Ask your friend later, or somebody else will get it. That might be one of those. Fortifiction, more tests. Unifiction, M-any. I know a chunk of you get that and think it's funny. Simplification, go. Reifiction, Scala reflect. Sorry. Don't hold it against me. I'm too distant now. I have to say things like this. Verifiction, we don't need types. We have tests. Ramifiction, Y2K. Ratifiction, SIP18, another little jab from the guy on the fringe here that doesn't want to get invited to give any more Scala talks. So he's trying to, really ensure it. I don't have the smoke bomb to throw down and disappear in a cloud of smoke. But I'm going to make you guys, anybody nervous, which they already were, about inviting me to say anything. Beautifiction, go format. And that's no joke. If you've ever seen the mess it makes of beautiful code, it's a crime. Criminality is like duplicity, all these bad things. I'm not going to read demystifiction. However, that was the actual definition given to me when I said define by algebra to Google. It's funny though, since the time that I tweeted that it did that 2 weeks ago, now when you say defined by algebra on Google, it goes to Wikipedia and gives you a significantly more comprehensible thing. So I don't know what that means. It's a little freaky though when you're like, haha, Google, and then Google changes what it does. I don't know if there's like people, I don't know. Somebody who works for Google, tell me how that happens. But that's from NLab, and it's not that it isn't right, it's just that it's a little bit, well, yeah. One more set here. Diversification. We play both kinds of music, country and Western. If you're my age, you probably know what that's from. Gratification, that wonderful feeling you don't have after pouring your life into software. I'm not bitter. Identification, biometrics. Indemnification, AIG. You might have to be an American to understand that. Justification, an unbeliever. Come on, that's funny. Notification, a read receipt. You guys aren't as drunk as I hoped. So better than things are Cothings, right? Things are for like lame mathematicians, but Cothings are for cool computer scientists. So I won't get into things and Cothings. If you're in here, you must have heard of them. Just reverse all the arrows. What's the problem? So let's see how this goes. All right, so I went looking for something with a good concentration of Cothings, just to sort of get a flavor of how intensely Cothings are really used. So I found this paper. This is the very first one I found. So I don't know, this is, as far as I know, not like the world's greatest example of Cothings. It's just the first one. This has some good ones. You don't see so often, like cocone, co-end. Some of these are like, you know, as a mathematician, he's like, well, what's the problem? Like, these are like super everyday things. That's the danger with me, is like I'll give away my ignorance by acting like something is obscure, and they're like, yeah, we use that every day. But anyway, there's a lot of amusing ones in here. So these are a subset of the co-beginning words, the ones that I was fairly sure were legitimately formed by putting co in front of something else. But then there was after partitioning the co-beginning set, there was more. Now this sort of opened my eyes to the wealth of possibilities in the world of words that begin with co that nobody's exploiting properly as co-things. Co-implicated. Too many co-things are not known. So the rest of the way here, I have a whole bunch of slides, and you're going to have to participate, because I won't go on to the next slide until somebody figures it out. I'm going to have a bunch of pictures, and it's going to be a thing and a co-thing, and you'll have to tell me what they are. I'm fairly sure every single one of these can be gotten in less than 2 seconds by somebody with this many people with the right knowledge, but I guess we'll see. Don't disappoint me. All right, let's see. Yes. Median and co-median. Yes. Aches and co-aches. Yes, don't worry, I was terrified about even this incredibly modest picture, but I'm fairly sure I can get away with this. Yes, it is a bra and a co-bra. Axes and co-axes. Ding and coding. and co-LA. Lender and co-lender. Ma and coma. Met and co-met. Some of the good hard ones are at the end. Actually, all the hard-ish ones are at the end. So, just in case you think you're going to cakewalk all of this. Mike and co-Mike. Stop mispronouncing them like comic. It's a co-Mike. That's the point. Peer and co-peer. Genuinely useful. The peer is how you get out to the water. The co-peer is how you get back. Me and co-me. FFEE and co-FFEE. I could have made that one really hard. We're waiting. Don't disappoint me. Mary Poppins, really? Does that look like Mary Poppins? That first picture doesn't evoke any sort of word to you that you could put co in front of? I like that. Conan, yeah. I could have done Conan with a mispronounce, like the barbarian misspelled. No, really? Are you guys, a perfect score is the only acceptable score. I'm going to... It's the kind of thing you'll know if you think of it, and I'm amazed this word does not come to mind. It is a field of carrots. Get the other one. She's praying and she's very serious about her religion. There we go. All right. Pious and co-pious. I'm really, really disappointed. Really disappointed. Burn. Good job. Good job. I won't underestimate the audience again. Vet and co-vet. Look at that kid. Sting and co-sting. If and co-if. Sorry if that's not your language's signature for if. Unties and co-unties. I like how people are still, like, oh, you're surprised. No, that's how it is. You're from now on, that's koan ties to you. You'll find yourself standing before a group and you'll say it. This is geared toward Americans. There we go. Excellent. Ward and co-Ward. That's Ward Cleaver of Leave It to Beaver. And if you're not familiar with Leave It to Beaver, you're either younger than me, not an American, or smarter than me. Ugh and co-ugh. You know you'll love it tomorrow. Up and co-up. I thought this one might be too hard, but apparently it wasn't. Dices and codices. It's the plural of codex, if you're wondering what exactly codices is. Although I believe codexes is also acceptable. You know who, Eric Oshheim is here, right? He would know. Right? I mean, you would. I can hear you. Yeah, he's nodding. Yeah, okay, good. Excellent. Jones and co-Jones. Q and co-Q. Yeah, you never thought that one would come up. That's the end. I have no more slides. Thank you for your attention. Actually, I'll take questions as if there could be any questions. But if there are. What's a good answer for that? Yeah, not as long. Yeah, 18 months, right? Exactly. No, I wrote most of this today. I collected the pictures before today, and then all the rest I basically did today. Yeah, that's pretty sad, right? It's like you know.
Not as long as you should have.
Yeah, exactly. Right. The sad answer is not as long as I should have, but far longer than like basically it works out to about 5 cents an hour, if that. Right. Actually, you know, I'm losing money to come here and making it up in volume. If I had started writing my perfect programming language 18 months ago, would I have finished? I think that I would still be iterating on which editor to use.
What are you programming in right now?
Go. Well, so that's the thing. For like 6-ish months, I haven't programmed. If there was another potential talk here, the alpaca talk, we might call, where I talk about all the amazing things I've learned by not programming. Like, don't do that. Not really, but it's true. It's kind of sick, right? Like your world is nothing but trees when you're programming, and it takes a significant period of time before it looks like a forest. And then once it does, it's like, wow, those are some seriously problematic trees. It's recently become interesting again because I've been studying memory and what a bad job I was doing memorizing stuff when I was working so hard, and it's like I should have been using different techniques. So maybe I'll do it again, but no, I haven't played any Scala recently. Actually, I don't think I can enjoy games of any kind anymore. That despite how sick and dysfunctional I think the software world is, I still feel compelled to try to do something at some point, so games aren't fun. Don't let that happen to you. Continue to enjoy games.
So the moral of your talk is don't become like me.
All my talks have that moral.
Roll Tide.
What's that?
Roll Tide.
Oh.
Say it.
That's an Alabama thing. We have somebody from the deep South here with a beer and no shoes, telling me to say "Roll Tide." Yeah, it's some kind of cheer given to the gladiators that they concussion each other.
It's a religion.
Yes, Roll Tide.
It's the religion. You're good.
Football's bad. Don't let your children play it.
Mine's 4. I signed them up.
That's not good parenting. Well, I mean, I'll stand here all night if you want, but I'll also stop if you want. So somebody's going to have to take control.